you had a searing hot take on Apple's F1. And I'll be honest, we've gotten some feedback about that. We've had people showing up in our DMs and in our inbox, taking us to task on this. What happened here?
Okay, so I said at the time, a spoiler, F1 was not going to be a major hit. And I said that Brad Pitt has historically not been a big box office draw. And I want everyone to know that I 100% stand by that. F1 was not a huge box office hit, John. It just wasn't. It cleared a very low bar for Apple. And so by that standard, by being graded on an extreme curve, F1 succeeded. And I will concede to Apple that they did succeed on that front, and that it was a great movie. I saw it in IMAX over in the Lincoln Square Theater on the big screen there, biggest one in North America. And it was a fantastic experience, and I thought it was great. But it was not a blockbuster hit. It made like $60-some million in the opening weekend domestically. And, it cost them upwards of $250-300 million, according to reports, to make. And so generally, when you spend that much money on a film, a $60 million opening weekend is not considered to be a hit. In fact, any other studio that made a film at that cost and only made $60-some million in the opening weekend, they would be considered, that movie would be considered a major flop. There'd be questions about why they spent so much money on it, what went wrong. But for Apple, because they're a streaming company, there's new studio, this gets considered a success. And I want to be clear, I am totally on board with considering this a success, but that does not make it a hit. And that was my point. And Brad Pitt, it turns out, was not a huge box office draw because it only made about $60-some million after all that promotional effort that Apple poured into it, after literally alerting people on iPhones that they had a $10 off coupon to go see this movie. $60-some million was the final product. Now it's, I think, cleared $300 million. So they're going to break even. If they haven't already, they're going to break even pretty soon. But in comparison, look, like Jurassic World Rebirth in the opening weekend globally made like $330 million, or it made $330 million or something. That was a much bigger hit. And it just doesn't get judged by the same standards.
Yeah. So the numbers that I have for opening weekend of F1 domestically, US and Canada, was $56 million. So
not
actually
even
was
60.
so it was just shy of 60. But worldwide was 144. So this movie did, attract audiences worldwide. I think that's in part because, American audiences generally don't watch Formula One racing. It's a little bit alien to the American audience.
No.
As you said, we both went and saw it.
Yeah.
We both thought it was great. Brad Pitt is the lead. Hans Zimmer has this beautiful, incredible score. It's a Jerry Bruckheimer produced film. It's got all these big names. Apple threw everything at this. We watched the Worldwide Developers Conference where all the technology developers and geeks get together. And how did they open it this year? They opened it with F1 as a trailer. And it was like, wow, Apple is really taking this seriously. So 56 is a little on the low end, but this is their biggest film to date at the box office, right? So I feel like we're just generally grading on a curve. As of this week, the 10-day numbers for that film put it now at 293 million worldwide. So I think we're over the production costs because this was a incredibly expensive film. The whole time I was watching it, I kept thinking, okay, this is a great movie. I'm really enjoying it. But how did they spend all this money? How did they spend the reported 250 million? Some even say it's north of that. How did they even spend all that money on this? It can't be all on Brad Pitt's, expensive salary and wardrobe. But look, 293 million is a pretty good, after 10 days or so, is a pretty good box office haul.
It's fine. If it wasn't any other, if David Zaslav would love a war with Eddie Q, I'm sure, because if he released a movie that made $6 million in opening weekend and he paid nearly $300 million for it, he would be roasted in the press. It'd be considered a major disaster, just like The Flash was back in the day, which I think did similar numbers to F1. It was considered to be a major disaster at Warner Brothers. And so I just don't, people are sure it was a great movie. But my take from the beginning was based on the fact that racing movies never do well at the box office. You've seen that in the past. Ford and Ferrari, or whatever that movie was. Gran Turismo, which actually I thought had a bigger built-in audience because of the video game. Everyone sort of played Gran Turismo. It's based on a true story. These movies never perform particularly well because it's just like, while it is a sport, it just doesn't have the same cultural cachet in America, particularly as like the NFL or like Major League Baseball. And so it was taking that. And I also think that Brad Pitt is beloved by a lot of people in Hollywood, obviously. But like generally speaking, I don't think he's a huge box office draw in the way that some other major movie stars are, right? And so I was just basing my guess or my prediction on these factors, and I think they turned out to be right. And so while I hear the people in the comments that it was a success, I think it was a success clearing a very low bar, but it was not a blockbuster hit, and that was what I said initially.